Konbanwa Tagwan Kroski-kuns. A little bit of a lower energy today, but hey, it's fine. I'm here with another Damon Cassidy video. This one is particularly interesting to me. Please check him out if you haven't already. He's an amazing content creator. I love his videos. So let's just get right into it.
According to
need
the
for
Federal
dying.
Reserve, the top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined, more than doubling since Reagan introduced trickle-down economics. And while productivity has nearly doubled since the 1980s, wages have only gone up by 32%, with billionaires officially paying a lower effective tax rate than the average American. Raising the question, how did one of America's most beloved presidents sell out the nation's future? While Ronald Reagan may not be solely responsible for America's decline, as decades of policy decisions, from Woodrow Wilson's entire presidency to Richard Nixon removing the nation from the gold standard, alongside continued involvement in foreign wars, had already begun reshaping the system, when looking at the moment the shift truly accelerated, all signs point to Reagan, a man who spent his entire career opposing the legacy of his own childhood hero, FDR. Born in 1911 in Tampico, Illinois, Ronald Reagan was raised in a household of committed Democrats, exposed early to both economic instability and a belief in public responsibility. His father, Jack Reagan, was an alcoholic and struggling shoe salesman who moved the family frequently in search of work, forcing Reagan to grow up in a constant state of uncertainty during a period that would soon collapse into the Great Depression.
It's very difficult for me to extract information when I'm not used to it. I've not looked into politics, I've not looked into economics, I've not looked into all of these things, but I do have opinions on issues that transcend political parties. Like, this is insane.
To grow up in a constant state of uncertainty during a period that would soon collapse into the Great Depression. By 1928, despite remaining on the brink of poverty, Reagan attended Eureka College on what they defined as a needy student scholarship, covering additional costs by washing dishes while relying on early forms of tuition deferrals. A time when opportunity was still accessible, despite financial hardship. Throughout his freshman year, Ronald Reagan showed early strength in public speaking, delivering a notable speech calling for a student strike over budget cuts. The strike succeeded, ultimately forcing the college president to resign. The following year, Reagan witnessed the Great Depression, where he saw banks fail, unemployment surge past 20%, and child poverty skyrocket, watching families like his already operating on thin margins, with no path to overcome this level of financial hardship. It was during this period that Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, reshaping the relationship between the government and the American worker through job programs, financial protections, and social safety nets that directly employed Reagan's father and older brother. But for Reagan, FDR became a personal hero, later recalling his strong, gentle, confident voice resonated across the nation with an eloquence that brought comfort and resilience, reassuring us that we could lick any problem. He really did convince us that the only thing we had to fear was fear itself. Reagan was so influenced that he began impersonating FDR's speeches using a broomstick as his microphone, became student body president, and voted for Roosevelt in all 4 elections, developing values that would later be sold for a hefty price tag. After graduating college, Ronald Reagan faced significant difficulty finding stable work and moved back in with his parents, leveraging his ability to speak into a role as a sports broadcaster and later an actor in Hollywood, where he...
Wait, so he was an actor in Hollywood. He was a sports broadcaster. The only notable thing that he's done so far is successfully lead a strike. So this guy just has eloquence and a silver tongue. He attended a college. What did he even study?
Appeared in dozens of films throughout the late 1930s and 40s, building a reputation as a recognizable and reliable presence on screen. However, what truly defined his time in Hollywood was his growing involvement in labor politics. In 1947, Ronald Reagan was elected president of the Screen Actors Guild, a role that he would hold through 6 consecutive terms during one of the most politically volatile periods in entertainment history. But it wasn't until the early 1950s, as Reagan went through a public divorce and his film role slowed significantly, that financial pressure with a new wife and young family set the stage for his partnership with General Electric. In 1954, Ronald Reagan signed a contract with GE worth $125,000 a year, roughly $1.5 million today, to host General Electric Theater on CBS, a position that required him not only to host and occasionally act, but to serve as GE's national corporate spokesman. Under the influence of GE executive Lemuel Boulware, whose staunchly pro-business, anti-union approach gave rise to the term Boulwarism, Reagan was supplied with pro-conservative reading material, supply-side economic arguments, and carefully curated talking points. Over the following years, he toured all 135 GE plants, speaking to more than 250,000 workers and their families, increasingly framing economic hardship as the result of government overreach and union power. But the defining shift came as Reagan entered the highest income bracket, stating, "The tax system was such that I began to realize that the government was taking more of our money, more of our options, and more of our freedom." A realization driven not by the conditions that provided his family jobs or allowed him to receive an affordable education, but by the limits placed on how much he could earn. After General Electric dropped Ronald Reagan for becoming too overtly conservative amid Democratic dominance during the John F. Kennedy era, he formally switched his party registration from Democrat to Republican in 1962, declaring that he had not left the Democratic Party, the party had left him. His national breakthrough came on October—
No. That is projection. The way that this is framed, the way that this video is framed, Ronald Reagan did leave the Democratic Party, not the other way around. If it was in today's modern Democratic Party landscape, I would have agreed with that, but not today. Or not, today is not today. Reagan lived in yesterday, in the metaphor that I'm trying to make. The way that this sounds, it seems like he was coerced into an ideology that allowed him to be more self-centered and worried about his own family. He seemed to have been pushed into a more of a rock and a hard place, quote unquote, because I mean, really, you're boo-hoo, my steak is too juicy, my lobster too buttery. So financial pressure with his new wife and family. How much financial pressure are we talking about? Because this guy is in film. This guy has been in years of entertainment. Entertainment is one of the best jobs you could have. It's mentally taxing, yes, but entertainment is an insanely good job to have, especially if you can earn enough to make a living by it. So what the heck?
Economic hardship as the result of government overreach and union power. But
government overreach and union power. We're still receiving government overreach by almost all forms. In fact, the coin is flipped. It's now government overreach on the poor. It's now government overreach on the masses rather than the top 1%. And we want to stomp out union power. Unions can be good. And I get that unions sometimes can act in a disingenuous manner, but that's bad apples ruining it for the rest. The people still need their options. The people still need to have their own type of power.
The defining shift came as Reagan entered the highest income bracket, stating, "The tax system was such that I began to realize that the government was taking more of our money, more of our options, and more of our freedom." A realization driven not by the conditions that provided his family jobs or allowed him to receive an affordable education, but by the limits placed on how much he could earn.
Yeah, this is driven more so by the coercion of the people around him. It's crazy how you are the reflection of the people around you. He went from bottom of the barrel scraps to finding an opportunity in college, and then he went into the entertainment industry, signed a deal and a contract driven by financial pressure, met another guy that toted bulwarism, I suppose that's what he said, and then he starts talking about how he switches from Democrat to Republican because the Democratic Party left him and he decided to focus more on himself, his own self-centered bubble. What a ridiculous notion.
His national breakthrough came on October 27th, 1964, when he delivered the now famous "A Time for Choosing" speech, which effectively launched his political career and led to his election as governor of California. As opposed to where economic expansion began to stagnate, political and corporate leaders increasingly shifted the blame onto the working man's so-called extravagant wage demand.
Wait. Business leaders complain that the working man's extravagant wage demands are the real cause of inflation. Unless labor costs can be held down and productivity pushed up, they argue the basic nature of the economy will be changed. Economic growth, profits, exports, and the global power of the dollar will dwindle. General Electric chairman Fred Borsch blames the nation's economic ills on an unbalanced concentration of power in the hands of organized labor. Really now?
Passing organized labor as the primary driver of inflation rather than addressing structural issues within the economy. One of the most influential voices behind the shift, and a key influence on what would later become Reaganomics, was Milton Friedman. In 1970, Friedman published what would become one of the most consequential articles in modern economic thought. The social responsibility of business is to increase its profits, arguing that business leaders who claimed to have a social conscience and were concerned with more than profit were preaching pure and unadulterated socialism and unwitting puppets of the intellectual forces that have been undermining the basis of a free society these past decades. And while you would expect a traditionally pro-worker, anti-big business society to reject this shift, The reality was shaped by a nation facing deep turmoil. The reduction of the nuclear family, the loss of emerging young leaders, the erosion of worker power through globalization, growing fears of communist influence, and high unemployment among Vietnam veterans. And when these pressures culminated under a presidency widely perceived as weak under Jimmy Carter, the nation turned towards a new ideology, one embodied by an up-and-coming masterful communicator who had whipped California into shape, positioned himself as understanding the frustrations of the working class, and offered a direct path towards making America great again.
We have piled deficit upon deficit, mortgaging our future and our children's future for the temporary convenience of the present.
Following a landslide victory over Jimmy Carter in 1980, Ronald Reagan entered office with a clear mandate to reshape the American economy, promising to get government off the backs of the American people. Within his first year, Reagan fired over 11,000 striking air traffic controllers during the PATCO strike, a decisive action that signaled a fundamental shift in how both the federal government and private employers would respond to organized labor. In the decades that followed, union membership has declined by more than half. Wages for the bottom 90% have grown by slightly more than a quarter, compared to nearly 400% for the top 1%. Today, nearly 40% of the American workforce earns less than a Ford factory worker did in 1914. Just 8 days after firing the PATCO strikers, Ronald Reagan signed the Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981, cutting the top marginal income tax rate from 70% to 50%, and eventually to 28% in the 1986 reform, while the lowest rate fell from 14% to 11%, and then back up to 15%. In practice, that meant that high earners saw savings of the tens of thousands of dollars each year, while the typical middle-class household only saw a few hundred. This approach, known as trickle-down economics, or supply-side economics, rested on the belief that cutting taxes for the wealthy and corporations would drive investment, expand business, and raise wages across the economy. And while the economy—
No. Absolutely not. No, because we're seeing tax breaks. We're oh my god. Tax breaks and benefits of corporations. This clearly contradicts the problems that we have with AI data centers. Data centers aren't creating jobs. Data centers are soaking up resources, and data centers are getting tax breaks and plenty of benefits by the government. But what are they doing? They're absorbing jobs from other industries. They're wasting more resources. In fact, I think I made a post on YouTube about how an AI data center was caught wasting so much more water than they should have. And it was in secret. And for those of you who don't believe me, here's the screenshot. We're supposed to believe that this will benefit everyone? No, absolutely not. Data centers are taking up way more resources than they should have. And that is a shining example of how trickle-down economics doesn't work. We've sold the future of the common person. We've sold the future of the younger generations, all for the sake of the present quick gratification of profit margins. And this is all under the guise of everyone will be happy. Oh, times are tough. It's the economy. The government and the people at the top created the economy, and they want to use it against us?
Would drive investment, expand business, and raise wages across the economy. And while the economy did grow, the gains did not trickle down, with the top 1% now controlling as much wealth as the bottom 90% combined.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting.
Also paying a lower effective tax rate than the average American. In October 1982, just weeks after launching the war on drugs, Ronald Reagan signed the Garden-St. Germain Depository Institutions Act, deregulating the savings and loan industry and allowing institutions to make far riskier commercial loans, invest in speculative real estate, and engage in practices that have been restricted since the Great Depression, resulting in a wave of reckless behavior that led to the savings and loan crisis, costing taxpayers over $124 billion in bailouts. Just 1 month later, in November 1982, the Reagan administration's U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission adopted Rule 10b-18, creating a legal safe harbor for corporations to repurchase their own stock, reverting what was widely viewed as market manipulation. Today, stock buybacks have exceeded $1 trillion annually, while employee training budgets have fallen to barely $100 billion. At the same time, the Reagan administration reduced need-based Pell Grants while expanding student loans, establishing the profit incentive behind the student loan program, and shifting the cost directly onto students, leaving the combination of lower wages, alongside college debt becoming the new price of entry for any decent paying job, to fundamentally break the entry-level job market. Of the 16.1 million jobs created during Reagan's presidency, 12.5 million were concentrated in low-wage service sectors such as retail, janitorial work, and food service. As a result, wages for young men fell from $12.19 in 1979 to $8.72 by 1995, while wages for young women dropped from $9 and a penny to $7.43. Today, despite record corporate profits, Gen Z faces the worst entry-level job market in nearly 40 years, while already carrying an average of roughly $34,000 in personal debt. An economic disaster that will take decades to recover from. And despite the AIDS crisis emerging at the start of his presidency, Ronald Reagan did not publicly utter the word AIDS until September 17, 1985, by which time over 12,000 Americans had been diagnosed and more than 6,000 had died. His administration repeatedly sought to cut or hold funding for research and prevention during the critical early years, and did not deliver a major policy speech on AIDS until May 31st, 1987, 6 years into the crisis, and after more than 20,000 Americans had died. This prolonged inaction, combined with the stigma and underfunding, allowed the disease to spread far more widely than necessary, leaving a legacy of preventable deaths and mistrust that continues to affect public health policies today. And finally, Ronald Reagan's administration reshaped the media landscape, accelerating a shift from a public service into a corporate-driven industry.
I mean, sometimes you have to wonder to yourself, like, was that on purpose? I mean, there's only so much, so far, that I can take negligence. Like, this can't be on accident. I feel like there was a reason for that. 6 years, and you see this crazy problem going on and public opinion being thrown at you. I feel like that's intentional somehow. I feel like he was using that for some reason. I don't know what. You know, maybe it was an accident. Maybe he's just that stupid. I'm sick of pretending like things aren't intentional anymore. I'm sick of pretending that things aren't on purpose.
This prolonged inaction, combined with the stigma and underfunding, allowed the disease to spread far more widely than necessary, leaving a legacy of preventable deaths and mistrust that continues to affect public health policies today. And finally, Ronald Reagan's administration reshaped the media landscape, accelerating a shift from a public service into a corporate-driven industry. FCC Chairman Mark Fowler dismissed the idea of media responsibility, famously describing television as just another appliance, a toaster with pictures. This deregulation culminated in the 1987 repeal of the Fairness Doctrine, removing the requirement for balanced reporting and fueling the rise of partisan talk radio and cable news. At the same time, early forms of relaxed ownership rules allowed corporations to begin consolidating media power, acquiring multiple local stations, and increasingly shaping national narratives around their interests. As 24-hour news networks competed for constant viewership, political coverage became increasingly polarized, deepening ideological divisions and reinforcing surface-level partisan identities.
Yeah, that's gotta be intentional. That has to be. This is why I make a point about bipartisan issues, because it's not just one or the other, it's both that have betrayed you. The Republicans and Democrats don't care about you. They don't care about your issues. They don't care about anything. All they care about is their own shiny cushions, their own shiny TVs, their own shiny everything. They care about their own toys while giving you scraps and drops of water. Meanwhile, they're in their own oasis. They're preaching a utopia that's meant for them, while we're left with a dystopia. I don't believe in this kind of stuff. I don't believe in Republicans or Democrats. Everybody's a traitor in the system. That's how I view it.
Rather than balanced and detailed information that
this fucking idiot. And this fucking idiot too.
Serve the common good. A plague that continues to tear apart the nation. And while, again, Ronald Reagan was just one man who did preside over a period.
No. Hold on, David. Yes, he was one man. Yes, you're right. You're right about that. But you have to think about it. It's the US president, and he has all of these people under him, including the CIA. It's one man, but this one man is talking to so many different people and creating a web of action that will catch all of the shrimp. The common person being the shrimp. Corporate profits, pushing down the people, and raising up the top 1%. It's one man with a lot of power and resources. Those resources being the people that help him.
Of economic recovery, whether attributed to his policies or to Paul Volcker, and who helped bring the Cold War to an end, while also being remembered as one of the most effective speakers and strong leaders in modern political history. But at the end of the day, his presidency still marked a decisive turning point where the destruction of guardrails and social safety nets drastically accelerated. But This also falls on the decades of leaders from both parties that have followed. But the
Time and time again, we voted and voted and voted, and time again, I've realized how useless voting is. And it's not because nobody will listen to me. It's because we keep voting for the lesser of two evils, and we're still trending towards a downward spiral. Just stop voting, guys. Just stop. This system, it's fake. They're all connected with each other, and it's gross. If there's a candidate that I don't like, I won't vote. But what if there are two candidates I don't like? Then I don't vote at all. See how that works? I'm sick of having my ideologies and my life being held hostage by those who are only interested in themselves and also don't have the life experience to make decisions for me. And that's very, very disorienting and bizarre for me to say because I'm 25 years fucking old.
important thing to understand is the underlying promise of Reagan's 1980 campaign that has left the nation in a constant state of remembrance rather than forward planning. The entire concept was never simply about returning to a better past. It was about convincing a nation that we could recreate that past without understanding what had actually made it possible in the first place. It was never solely government or business that made this country great. It was when Americans came together in solidarity to build systems that serve the common good, until we move past division and begin to do the same again.
Exactly. Move past division. You see this? This isn't talking. This is talking over each other, trying to not convince each other. That's not the purpose of whatever this CNN clip is. No. The purpose of this is to make sure that you present your point loud enough to have the common person that's watching it believe in you. It's not about finding the truth or understanding what it takes to make the country better. It's about pushing your opinions onto other people. And if you can do it loud enough, if you can do it rowdy enough, whatever it may be, you lie, cheat, and steal your way into getting what you want. That is the ideology of these people. Politicians are not intelligent people. They're just good speakers. Some of them can be intelligent, but that doesn't mean that they're interested in my future. They're only interested in their lives.
Future generations will not look back at this era as a failure of circumstance, but it's a failure of leadership, a failure of community, and a failure to act. As John F. Kennedy once said,
"All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But let us begin."
And so what I hope that we're
Yes.
beginning to recognize is this sell out your beliefs, sell out your morals, sell out your neighbor for a quick buck has been fundamentally disastrous for our country. And it hasn't just been the United States. You know, Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan were like best friends. And I believe that there was somebody similar in Australia too. So I think that that's why we all find ourselves in similar circumstances.
Yes.
But this prevailing belief that nothing comes before the shareholders. The shareholders are the most important thing in our country. That the stock market represents our economy. That we need to worship the billionaires. That
the stock market is a bunch of fake numbers that they use. The stock market is simply meant for the rich. It is not representative of the average common person. It is not representative of America. The stock market is simply just a tool for the rich.
Somehow, because they have an enormous amount of money, they must know what's going on. They must be more intelligent. They must be better.
No.
It's absurd.
A lot of the time, it's nepotism. A lot of the time, it's having opportunities that you don't usually typically have.
Absurd. And unfortunately, I just don't know how we're even still participating in that reality.
Yes.
Like, it fundamentally goes against what is impacting us in our everyday life.
Yeah.
But we've been so convinced that we're each other's enemy. And I don't think that we've gotten to the point yet to where we're not tweeting, screw Jeff Bezos, eat the rich, tax the rich. Ooh, just got a notification. My Amazon package has just been delivered at the door, right? Like, we haven't been able to break free from that.
No, Damon is completely right about this. We have been coerced into a life of comfort and only whine and complain. The rich or the people above us tell us to get off our lazy ass. Well, what happens when we actually do get off our lazy ass? They fight back. And that's where the real battle is. Not tweeting something and then, like he said, getting your Amazon package in the door. Damon Cassidy said it in the last video that I reacted to him with, right? That video, he said how he fights every day in the way that he can, whether that be pushing chairs under tables at the gym or doing something else. Because of me hearing that, actually, it affected me. I started fixing my parking out in the apartment complex that I live in. I didn't used to do that. I used to be like, it's good enough. They'll know to avoid it. No, I started turning my car back on when I saw that it was improperly parked. It actually made me better at parking because I didn't want to be lazy anymore about it. But we are a chained mouse, and we're so worried about the cheese that we forget that we're chained. We have been coerced to seek out comfort rather than seeking out the truth.
It's kind of like one foot in the door of society, but one foot in the door of change. We don't really know what to do. I feel motivated.
We don't know what to do because we can't ever agree on anything. We're too busy fighting each other that we're not even seeing the garbage around us. We have eyes constantly looking at each other, but not looking at the same direction. We have people now today that preach about gender wars. We have people today that preach about Democrat this, Republican that, left this, right that, conservative this, liberal that. These are just flashbangs, smoke grenades. This is meant to obfuscate the real issues that are going on in our society today. The common person, it doesn't matter. They have zero value in the eyes of the 100, in the eyes of the 0.1%, the top 1%, whoever it may be. You know what I'm talking about. The common person doesn't matter, and they're using all of these issues to turn us against each other. And they're using every weapon they can, every source of comfort, every piece of media, entertainment, whatever it may be, whatever you use that produces dopamine, it's on purpose. They want you to be comfortable in this life so that you'll be too distracted by the shit that they keep shoveling into it.
But then I wake up and I feel tired and you know, I'm just going to go get some DoorDash or something. Like
Exactly. Yes, Damon. Exactly. I'm guilty of it too. Okay? I am guilty of it too. I would get motivated and then I would burn out the next day and be like, and choose comfort. But it was until I heard the quote by Miyamoto Musashi, seek nothing outside of yourself, that I realized that my spirit is heavy. My motivation and my energy is quickly burnt out because my mind is so fractured and I'm constantly experiencing a cognitive dissonance. I realized that I don't need validation. I don't need to be crumbling under my own ambition. I simply need to be. My life is the way it is because this is how it's supposed to be. If I want a different life, then I act. Otherwise, everything I have right now is what I deserve because life is indifferent to my experience. I learned a lot from the people that I watch. I learned a lot from the videos that I watch. And even though I'm not the most intelligent person, even though I don't understand everything, what I do know is that none of this is good. And none of us are talking to each other to fix these issues, and I'm sick of it. So I will be the one to wake everybody up. At least I can try.
and I think the hard thing is that it feels very difficult to understand that there will be a future. If you look back 50 years ago, you see that people in our same position were fighting to make America great again. So nothing's different, right?
Nothing's different.
I would say, I mean, things have gotten worse.
Yes.
But in terms of like forward thinking, man, it's been a long time since that's happened.
Yes.
And so the only difference that we have right now than 50 years ago was that we have the opportunity to decide what the future is going to be. So we have to find it within ourselves. Are we going to be a part of making a difference, making a change, making the future be different than it is today? Or are we going to be a part of the people that have history repeat? I think for the people that decide, I want to make a change, we have to find something that is this impenetrable force for us to be in service of one another, to do something for good, to say that, man, if you offer me $1.5 million a year, I won't sell out my values. That's what Ronald Reagan did. $1.5 million was his price tag. So
my price tag is the world. If I can have the world, I'll throw everything away because then I'll be able to change it. If I can't have the world, then I can't be bought.
We have to find something within ourselves that no matter what, I will be in service. So whether that's your kids, the thoughts of you having kids or your future kids, your grandkids or your grandparents or your parents, your spouse, your best friend, your neighbor, your beliefs, religion, whatever the case may be, it needs to be so impenetrable that it is just, you can't help but pursue it. For me,
Yes, this is called alignment. When you seek nothing outside of yourself, you remove everything that is unnecessary. I don't need validation. I don't need anything that isn't from within me. So anything that isn't within me is unnecessary. I drink green tea, but I don't need it. And green tea does help me out a lot. It's for its function. It's unnecessary to consume things for the enjoyment of them. Unnecessary. And it keeps me comfortable. Comfort is unnecessary. It is nice, don't get me wrong, but it is unnecessary. Did you guys know I sleep on the floor? I prefer the space of my room rather than sleeping comfortably. And if you know how to sleep on the floor, it's actually healthier for your back. I haven't verified this information, so take my word with a grain of salt. Regardless, I don't need anything that is unnecessary for my path. My path is simply my path. And anything else is unaligned.
I really care about our country. And there's been something since I was just a little kid that I'm like a black hole of people's feelings. I can't help but just feel empathetic. It's just the way that I am.
I can't help but understand without entirely feeling them. The thing is that I can't help but understand and read into situations, and every time I talk to somebody, it's like a diplomatic mission for me. I manage my tone, I manage my body language, I manage their emotions, I manage my emotions, I manage my words, I manage their words, I manage the conversation, I manage our dynamic, I manage the overarching points, and I try not to get lost in the conversation. I'm handling and controlling so much during a conversation that I get so drained and I can't turn it off. I can't. I can try. I can work on it, right? But this stems from my childhood of having to deny myself for the sake of stability and peace. And I've realized that all I did was trap myself for the safety of others, for the comfort of others. No longer. It's time I be more selfish.
And it feels lonely like 99.999% of all of the time.
Yes.
But man, is that a driving force. I also really want to be a dad. So I want to make
I want to be a dad too, man. I do. I want to be a father too.
Sure that I am a strong leader for my kids, as long, hopefully that I can have them. But I also want them to be a part of a better reality than I'm participating in. So that alone for me is what allows it to be 1 o'clock in the morning. I've worked 10 hours today. I will work another 2 or 3 hours tonight editing. I'll sleep for about 4.5. I'll spend all day tomorrow working. And this is what happens every week. I work about 60 hours a week, and it's because I want to see a difference.
Yes. Some people will say, how does he have the energy for that? It's because his spirit is aligned with his path. His spirit isn't heavy. His mind isn't split. He's not experiencing anything crazy. You know what? You know what's in his head? A spear. And that spear is directed towards his goal. His mind is not thinking about anything else but for his goals. So his body, everything is dedicated to that. Anything else is unnecessary. And he holds himself up to high standards, but he doesn't crumble under them. He only does his best. Not for the validation, not for the sunshine and rainbows, but because he truly, authentically cares about it, and anything else will only prevent him from going on that path. That's why he's willing to put so much of himself to it. This is under my lens. His reasons could be different. I don't know Damon well. I don't want to speak for him, but this is what I gauge, and this is what I see from my own lens and my own perspective.
I really care. I get a lot of emails about people sharing their experiences, and I want to help every single person. It's just what I want to do. And so to me, that is my push, but you have to find it within yourself. And
he just said it. He just said it. Oh my God. He just said it. He said it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm geeking out.
Don't have physical leaders anymore.
Oh my God.
And I personally think that the right and the left, neither one have our best interests in mind. And
I couldn't agree more. We have been betrayed by the people that are pretending to compete against each other, when in reality they're shaking hands behind closed doors.
we could debate that or whatever. I don't really care. But, you know, I think that we have to find motivation and leadership within one another. But what does that mean? So the government needs to be changed. Like, that is clear as day. Millennials are the largest living generation, but they only have about 16% representation in Congress.
Because the younger generations are the only one that are capable of understanding the filth that has infected our society. From millennials all the way to Gen Z. Hell, even Gen Xers. All of us can understand that the things that are going on in this country aren't right. And we're consistently putting the blame on so many other things that aren't even real or true. Why am I, as a Gen Z, being consistently thrown under the bus by the media? It's so that I can be ignored when I point out the flaws in society.
They have less than Gen X and baby boomers. Now, I'm not saying that's because they're not trying or they're not being let in. I don't know what the case is, but that number needs to be going up. There is one person from Gen Z. Now, yes, we're a young generation, but man, that's got to be higher too.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the times, countries have been managed by people who are younger. I mean, when you look back to the Constitution, I mean, what was the average age of the person in that room? Let me see. 40 years old, 50 years old, 46 years old, 39, 38, 35, 50, 37, 48, 41, 70, 32, 41, 52, 65, 30, 26. Do you see this? Look. 26 again, right here. So that's two 26s. How many people are 80 to 90 years old in the Constitution, if any at all? So why is it that we're letting these people of this age exclusively run our country? There's no representation for the younger person, and there's no representation for the common man. We've been put in a corner. It's time to act like a cornered animal, because we have no representation. And we continue to try to rely on our elders that are only self-interested. We continue to rely on a ring of people that only seek to help out each other and nobody else. It's disgusting. We need more young people in the government.
There has to be people that say, I'm going to pursue this. It seems like the worst job on earth, but I got to go in there and I got to try to change our government because it has to happen.
Yes.
There has to be a change there.
Yes.
But on business, what does that look like? Well, we have to be creating business in the service of others. I've already said the story before, but I was in the gym, I was at the sauna, and I saw two guys that were kind of my age, and they were frothing at the mouth with an older person saying, yeah, you can just outsource all your IT roles over in Africa, and they'll work for about $5 a day, and they'll work 24 hours a day. They'll sleep at their desk. And they were like ready to throw a party. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Create a business in service of others. Create a business that you hire locally. Create a business that like actually is in service of the future as well. That doesn't just consume. Like, there's an opportunity for that. I don't understand this belief that if you gouge everything from the consumer, you get to make more money. I think like if you pay people more, they have more money to spend. And so it's like a better business decision.
Yes, it's so reversed. We're talking about triple up economics, not triple down economics. We flipped the script. That's what I'm trying to say. It's poetic. Instead of being trickle up, it's trickle down, and it's not working. But when we think about trickle up, maybe it's not that simple. It's insane to me how it just keeps ending up being poetic and ironic for the people around me, for the government, for the politicians, the rich. And I don't really agree with eat the rich. The rich are people too. We can talk on it, we can debate on it, but I don't believe that simply having wealth is a metric for deciding somebody's life or deciding whether they deserve to have that wealth or not.
Like, it isn't hard to do the right thing.
No.
But I do think that we have to be doing the right thing even if a buck isn't coming our way. Like, that's just a fundamental value. And if you don't want to be in government or business, I always say the easiest thing that you can do is step outside your house and pick up some trash. You're impacting the community immediately. I was raised, my stepdad would always tell me, your back isn't broken. And my dad would always tell me, who do you think that you are, that you're more important than to pick up trash? And so what I do on my walk is I go out and I pick up trash. I see trash on the ground, I pick it up immediately because it's in service of others. It's what I can do right then and there. There is no reason for any of us that decide I want to be a part of a better tomorrow that you're not picking up trash. There's absolutely no excuse, or pushing in a chair. Whatever the simple, easy thing is that you can do right now. Please do not let this video be just a left-right debate.
Yes, that's also something that I don't want any of my videos to be. Look, guys, I've gotten a lot of views on some of my videos, a couple of them. I don't know how many, okay. I'm going to get exposure eventually, but what I need to set a precedent for is, please do not try to partisan my videos. Engage with the topic at hand, because if we get confused about this way and that way, we box ourselves in and we limit our vision from allowing us to see the things that could have potentially been better. We cannot box ourselves in and limit ourselves like that, because the truth is free from boxes. It's free from this way or that way. The truth is hidden, and the truth must earnestly be found, not under the lens of Democrat, not under the lens of Republican, and not under the lens of somebody's opinion. The truth, the cold, objective truth, needs to be earnestly found through communication that is rooted in finding that truth. Nothing more. Anything more than that is unaligned and unnecessary.
I think that is just destroying our country. This constant battle within one another, it is not productive. I have a resource here. It's called Propaganda. It was written by Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He was a part of the propaganda team in World War I that got America to actually go participate in World War I. When he came back, he decided to put propaganda in with corporations. So he's the reason that we eat bacon and eggs for breakfast. We used to do black coffee and an English muffin. He tricked us into eating bacon and eggs. It turns out that the eggs aspect is actually pretty healthy. But the reason that we have fluoride in toothpaste, the reason why the color emerald green became very popular, very fashionable, the reason that women smoke cigarettes, essentially every aspect of American consumerism belongs to Edward Bernays. So it used to be called propaganda. He changed it to PR. But on like page 7, he discusses how the left and the right was fabricated by the elite to give us the illusion of choice, but actually to just create division amongst one another.
Yes, exactly. That I can't say it any better than that. That is exactly what I believe. That is 100% what I believe. This whole left-right thing, it's fake. It's all fake. Women versus men, bullshit, it's all fake. It doesn't exist. These are all tools by the elite for the elite.
That book was written in about 1927, I believe. It's the exact blueprint.
In the 20s? Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. We've been dealing with this for almost a century. I don't even know. Maybe it is a century, actually. I can't do math. I'm sorry, guys. I'm terrible at this. Wait, was I right? Was it almost a century? 1927. Yeah. Oh my god, I was right. 99 years, right? Okay, never mind, guys. I'm amazing at math. I'm the GOAT. Almost a century. I'm the GOAT. I'm an actual GOAT. I'm a G. I'm amazing at this. Yup.
Blueprint for what it is that we're facing today. We are following it line by line. And so I just think that it's foolish of us to continue to fight that way. We have to recognize that we have far more similarities than we do differences, and we have to bond amongst that. But also be able to have complex conversations. Like, I hope that you can see this, even if you're a fan of Ronald Reagan, and say, maybe there's points being made here, or, you know, whatever the case is. Like, we lost.
Yes, we lost the eye of truth. And now our eyes are affected by all the colors. I just don't know how to put it. We aren't looking in the same direction anymore. We're just pointing and looking at each other. The direction that we're all supposed to be looking at is earnest truth, detached from my identity and my freedom. My ideology isn't my religion. My ideology isn't my identity. My ideology, my ideas, and my principles are learned and cultivated. It's an orchard that I take care of. If there are weeds in that orchard, I have to take them out. I don't want dirty water. I want clean and clear water.
That. The news used to show complex events and have discussions and debates. We can't do that anymore. Look at every news event. It's like the person has 3 minutes to talk about something massive and they're like rushing through. That's not the way that we're going to be able to make a difference. So we have to demand better. I really hope that this video was able to provide value. I've been thinking about making this video for over a year. It's been on my plan, and I really hope I was able to do it some justice.
I was thinking about saying all of the things that I've said in this video for like since last year. I tried so hard chasing clout. I tried so hard seeking validation, but that's because I kept denying myself. No more. No more. It's time I start doing things that I think are right, that I think matter, that I like, regardless of whether it gives me any reward or not. But I'm just trying to tell you my resolve. I don't care if I lose my home, everything, simply because I'm chasing something that I earnestly believe in. I don't care. I will lose sleep over it. I'll get that sleep back. I refuse to hold myself back because anything that isn't aligned with my path is unnecessary. And that includes how I feel, because what I think is important matters more than how I feel. I don't want validation. I want success and the truth. And I will combine them in the best way that I can that benefits myself and everybody. That's what it means to be selfish to me. In a good way.
If this video provided value to you, I would greatly appreciate if you liked and subscribed if you haven't already done so.
Yeah,
like
of
I
course.
keep saying, I'm really trying to make a difference, and I think community is the way forward, and I would
I
greatly
agree.
appreciate if you wanted to be a part of that journey. I hope this.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to see this video. If you enjoyed the video, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.